You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. And now it's time to the interview I did with Dave Harcourt from Swale Community Leisure as part of the regular slot I do with him, normally once every 2 to 3 months, to keep you updated on what they're doing, let you know how the Beachfields project is going, and just a general update. And I started off speaking to Dave by asking him how his Christmas went.
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Lots of work going on, so yeah, all some exciting things happening, and of course, a few days spent with some family time as we have to.
Well, I'm glad you had a good break, and I was hoping you could let us know whether there's been any exciting news at Swale Community Leisure over the last period, and I suppose since we last spoke as well.
Yes, it seems like a long time ago, but I don't suppose it's that long. But yes, we have had a few changes, particularly looking at Sheppey Leisure Complex. Going back to last year, we had a bit of a problem, which many of our customers will be aware of, in that our dance studio had some problems with the floor. So we're in the unfortunate position of having to close down the dance studio and move the gym out from underneath into a number of different spaces around the building, which wasn't great for customers. But over the Christmas period, we've managed to address that. So we've had some quite extensive work carried out. We've got some steel reinforced joists going into the dance studio. So we've now got a refurbished dance studio with a perfectly safe and serviceable floor. The downstairs gyms had walls knocked through and opened out, so we've got a beautiful new space with the equipment all put back into position, and we're ready to roll. In fact, it was all up and running last weekend, but of course we have to let all our customers know as well. So over the next week or so, we're hoping to have lots of customers return and new people join. So that's a great move for Sheppey Leisure Complex. We also, at the same time, carried out a load of work around improving the roofing on the building. So in actual fact, there's been, I would suggest, something nearly £100,000 spent on improving the facilities for customers. So that's good. And, of course, all of that had to happen when we weren't quite so busy, which was over the Christmas period.
So quite a bit of work then, quite some major work by the sounds of it as well.
Absolutely. All improvements which needed to be done. And I think what it's allowed us to do is to, through the scope of the improvements, actually increase our capacity as well, because we've got an improved gym space. So there's more room for people to train and more room for people to access the building. So, yes, we're very pleased and actually, more than anything, happy for the customer.
Now, New Year is normally the sort of time for resolutions and new starts. And does this reflect in the number of people using the leisure centre at the moment?
Yes, it's only just started with January, well, almost coming to an end, I guess. But actually, we've noticed an increase in the number of users. I mean, it's always the same, I have to say, in the leisure industry. In January, we see numbers rising, lots of people knocking on the door and lots of inquiries. Our social media's gone absolutely mad with inquiries, people wanting to know, how do we come and join? Because, of course, everyone wants to make that New Year's resolution, new you, and look to the future. So it's good for us, and that's good for local people, because more people that come along and use the facilities, and the more demand we have, the more investment we can make. So that's working very well. Generally, we would see this peak round about March time, and there's a dip off during April, and then another build up towards the summer. So this year, though, I have to say, with the facility investment we've had over the winter, I believe we're in the best position we've been for a number of years to service that need. And I think that's reflected already by the number of people queuing up to join and come and use the gym.
So is there any news on the Beachfields project? Where are we at the moment?
Okay, well, that's quite interesting, because, of course, that's where I first came along to speak to you, Daniel. If you remember, going back, must be nearly 2 years now, actually.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, and actually, it's a slow-moving project, and so I understand people get very frustrated, especially local people, when you think, well, he's back on the radio talking about this Beachfields Regeneration project. What's actually happening? Well, on the face of it, it doesn't appear like there's too much happened, other than the fact we have been making improvements to the leisure facilities on a slow basis, but I think noticeable. Things like additional automatic doors, so our disability access is improved, those types of things, which have happened over the last year. And in fact, that's made our facilities more accessible to people. One of the big things we wanted to do, though, was change the outside of the facilities. So looking at things like the paddling pool, the tennis courts, the park area, and make the whole place more of a destination again. Well, over the last year, much of our time has been spent working with Swale Borough Council, and the mechanisms of local government sometimes take a little bit of time to get chugging along, but they are working and they are well oiled. There's a good feel in terms of what's going to happen in Beachfields over the next few years. So one of the things that the Swale Borough Council has done is to invest in consultants working with us to look at the best options and most cost-effective options for the future for the site. So what we've managed to do is we've managed to draw together all of the work that we've carried out, along with the local people, school children, and our focus groups, to make sure that anything that does change in the future reflects their need and what they wanted to see happen. As an example, one of the things which I know people feel very strongly about is the paddling pool. And we've had a group of engineers come in and look at the paddling pool to see how much it would cost to improve it. At the end of the last season, unfortunately, we were in the position where it looked like it wasn't going to be used again. So something had to be done. And these are all elements of the Beachfields project. And the final thing I wanted to mention about it was, you may recall in our last meeting, I mentioned about putting in a bid to the Heritage Lottery Fund. Well, we've got to the second stage of that now, whereby Heritage Lottery Fund are very pleased about our youth project that we want to set up. And we've had agreement from the Oasis Academy that they will actually let us use their facilities to run a youth group to gather together the thoughts and ideas of young people to drive the project forward. So lots of work in the background. We're not there yet, but we are heading in the right direction.
So do you think any of this might be affected by Brexit?
Thanks for commenting on Brexit. I keep getting asked this all the time. It's quite interesting, isn't it, for everyone around the country, whether you're a public facility or whether you're a private business. Everyone wants to know what Brexit's going to do in terms of affecting our businesses. And I guess the answer is nobody really knows. I mean, there's still arguments, as I'm sure you're aware, going through government about how we initiate the process. And actually, it will happen. I'm sure it will happen. And I think the worst thing isn't so much the levels of support and funding for businesses, either through the European Union or without the European Union. It's that change period which is the problem. So I think in the next 2 years, people will find that actually they will have to be a bit more careful with their money, so there may be a slight downturn. At the moment, though, we're very much in the position where we don't rely on European funding for any of our regeneration, so I don't think it's going to affect, in a particularly bad way, anything that we've got planned.
Oh, that's good too. And it's always nice to hear something a bit more positive as well. So what's on the horizon then, looking ahead to the future at Swale Community Leisure?
Well, we're working closely with Swale Borough Council, as I mentioned. One of the things we're doing is we're working with Sport England to draw together a case study to see what sort of facilities, both in Sittingbourne and on the island, are required by local people. And there's quite a scientific approach to this. So we need to work with partners and we need to work with developers to see, do we look at building new leisure facilities or do we invest in the ones we have? Where do we go next? And again, this is one of these processes that does take a while, but it's quite interesting to see, particularly on the Isle of Sheppey, which is where most of your listeners will be, I'm sure, Daniel, that actually there's going to be a big increase in housing and the number of people who want to use leisure on the island. So I think it's quite important there's a focus for investment on the island. So we need to determine that because, of course, it's very difficult to gain external investment unless we've actually got the demonstration of the need and some evidence to back it up. So we're very lucky to have Sports England supporting us with that, collecting and collating that information so that we do then have a tangible argument to gain that investment that we need. Two other things which I think are probably more practical, I will mention to you. You may recall that actually within the Beachfields project, we worked with the Dame Kelly Holmes Trust, and we ran a project to help young people get back into work. So we've got a next phase of that starting in a month's time, and that's going to be based in Sheerness again, but we're hoping to focus on young people that live on the eastern end of Sheppey. So we will be down on the eastern end, laid down at East Church and Warden, trying to recruit young people onto the scheme. We'll be providing transport. And I must say a big thank you to Big Local who are supporting us with this. Big Local Eastern Sheppey have been supporting the project from the start and are keen on making sure that young people on the eastern end of the island manage to gain that success as well. And just two other I believe, interesting developments. We see this as a route into employment within the leisure centres and other employers, of course, but particularly within the leisure centres, we are looking to engage more in the apprenticeship scheme. So what we want to do is to look at taking on apprentices so that we can offer training support for young people into the workplace in our facilities. And not forgetting as well, there are people on the island who may have been to university, come back and looking for opportunities. We're also looking to offer an internship, suitable applicants, to support our community development programme. So some quite exciting things happening, I think, in the future.
And if people would like to find out more or perhaps contact you, how can they do that?
Okay, well, you can contact us on our Facebook site, but actually, I think the best thing would be if you can go to our corporate website, which is www.swaleleisure.org, or email us from that on inquiries@swaleleisure.org. Either way, you'll get through to us either via social media or via email, and we'll certainly get back to you.
Well, Dave, as always, I thank you very much for talking to us. It always is appreciated, and it's good to catch up with you. And I'm sure our listeners, appreciate you taking the time out to let them know what's happening.
Excellent, and I'm more than happy to share what I know. And if anybody's got any questions, or if you've got any questions, Daniel, please feel free to contact me. And I hope you'll invite me on the show again.
No, definitely. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Okay, thank you very much, then, and good night for now.